Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. I am your host, Oliver Queen, and you have failed the city. But you're in luck. You can take it over in summer school. Now, I have put together a group of nuggets of news nuggets of news, I don't think I like that term. Collection of stories to cover, and a few other things we'll hit on. I will also be doing a non-spoiler review of the series debut of Loki. Non-spoiler because, well, I know a lot of you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, so I don't want to give anything away. But I will be doing a spoilery review and discussion tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. That's my normal Dan Wickline Show on Thursday. And from now on, while Loki's on, that'll be our spoiler discussion. So if you guys want to talk about Loki, your ideas, your theories, all that stuff, join me on Thursday night for the Dan Wickline Show at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So won't be going to spoilers today, but we will talk a little bit about the show. I stayed up until midnight to watch it. And I got to tell you, I'm glad I did. I will probably watch it one or two more times before the show tomorrow night. Also, I need to pay closer attention for Easter eggs and stuff like that. But overall, it was really good, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. Also, this is New Comic Day, so please hit your local comic shops. Pick up some of the great books that came out. Kyle and I spent last night. Kyle, my producer on this show, is my co-host for In Stores This Week, which runs on Tuesday nights. And we covered a lot of the great books coming out this week. So, if you missed that, you can catch that on our YouTube channel. But we have a ton of great stuff coming out this week. And you should get over to the comic shops. If you haven't been to a comic shop lately, you don't know where one is near you, go to the comic shop locator and put in your zip code, and they will hook you up with the nearest comic shop. All right, we are going to get started here with our first story of the day. And this has to do, Netflix has released the episode titles for the upcoming third season of The Umbrella Academy, which, of course, you know, is based on the Dark Horse comic series by Gerald Way and Gabriel Ba. Sadly, most of the news coverage that I saw of this talked about how it was a graphic novel or a comic series by Gerald Way and never mentioned the artist. But we will not be doing that. We definitely want to mention Gabriel Ba, and I'm even going to throw in Dave Stewart's name, the colorist. Now, the titles for the episodes are kind of interesting. The first one is Meet the Family. Then there's World's Biggest Ball of Twine, Pocket Full of Lightning, Kugelblitz, Kindest Cut, Marigold, Auf Wiedersehen, Wedding at the End of the World, Six Bells, and finally Oblivion. Now, Meet the Family is likely going to reference the Sparrow Academy, that was teased at the end of season 2. This is the family that Hargrove puts together in what appears to be an alternate universe. One of the original members of the Umbrella Academy is part of the Sparrow Academy. Ben, the one who, spoilers if you haven't seen season 2, but he is not with them at the end of Umbrella Academy. So there's a Sparrow version of him in the teaser at the end of season 2. So, now another episode is called Auf Wiedersehen, which of course doesn't look that way when you read it, but it is German. And it's basically German for goodbye, but it more specifically means until we meet again. Yes, my year of high school German finally pays off. In your face, Mr. Era. All right, let's move on to our second story of the day. And that's fans of the CW series The Flash had to say goodbye to an original cast member last night. Carlos Valdez and his character Cisco Ramon are leaving the show. The story is that Ramon and his girlfriend Camilla are leaving Central City and are heading to Star City. Well, Camilla is actually going to Florida to do a gallery show of her photography before she'll hook up with Carlos Cisco in Star City. And Star City, of course, is the former home of one Emerald Archer. Missed that show so much. That was my favorite Arrowverse show. Now, so he is going to Star City to take over as Director of Technology and Science for Argus. And Argus is kind of the shield of the DC universe. While this is his series exit, the character isn't quite gone yet, as he's supposed to appear in the final 2 episodes of the season. This, of course, leaves the Flash with one less ally, because Cisco is also the hero Vibe, who backed up Barry a lot in the 7 seasons that they've been doing. Now, while Valdez is leaving the show, there's another original cast member also leaving, Tom Cavanaugh, who played Harrison Wells in the first season, who was the Reverse Flash, but it was Eobard Thawne in disguise, and he's been all these different versions of Harrison Wells throughout the seasons, the multiverse versions of Wells. He's finally done as well. But the show itself is moving forward and has been renewed for an 8th season. So, yes, Sherlock. He played Sherlock. He played HR. He played Harrison Wells of Earth 2. He played the Council of Wells, which is one of the weirdest groups of ever. So it's kind of a shock to see him leave, because he was constantly getting a new role to play, basically. So both Tom Cavanaugh and Carlos Valdez are leaving the series, which leaves Jesse L. Palmer. Jesse L. Palmer? No. Jesse L. Martin. Brain freeze. Grant Gustin, and Danielle Panabaker, and trying to remember who plays Iris. Well, those are the only 4 members of the original cast still with the series. They've added a few more characters to take over certain parts of the show, but it's getting smaller and smaller. And as it goes into its 8th season, I want to remind you that Arrow made 8 seasons as well, and then came to an end halfway through. So will Flash continue past where Arrow was? Be interesting to see. Maybe at that point we'll stop calling it the Arrowverse. I know the CW is trying very hard to rename it the CW-verse, but it's always going to be the Arrowverse for me. Okay, let's go on and talk about this one. Going to jump around a little bit in the news that I put together. If you're still holding out hope for more WandaVision, you might want to go ahead and give up that ghost. Elizabeth Olsen was in a weird star-to-star style interview with Kaylee Cuoco, and she was asked if there would be more WandaVision, and her response was, no, it's definitely a limited series. Then she added, I'm saying that, I don't know. With Marvel, you can never say no. People die, and she kind of left it at that. Now, I'm pretty sure we're not going to get any more WandaVision, because it wouldn't make sense for a show called WandaVision, as that was the series that was specifically based around the idea of the sitcom universe driving thing, the sitcom motif. Could we get Vision and Scarlet Witch series, or where they focus on her tracking down the White Vision and trying to restore him to the Vision she loves. I think that's an absolute possibility, but we won't know until after Doctor Who and the Multiverse of Madness, because that's where we'll see Wanda next. Where we'll see the White Vision again, that could be anywhere. He might pop up in Armor Wars. He could pop up just about anywhere or nowhere at all. Paul Bettany has said that he is done with his contract. So he's done his responsibility. So they would have to do something new for him. But I don't think they're going to leave that just out there like that. I think eventually they'll reconnect to it. It's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. In the multiverse. Did I say Doctor Who? I was up late watching Loki, so I didn't get a lot of sleep. And then I spent the morning putting together the tidbits of news here for the show. Let's continue on. For those of you who are going, yeah, enough with the Marvel stuff, get back to the live-action Star Wars, well, you'll be happy to know that the Book of Boba Fett has officially completed filming. This gives them a little over 5 months for post-production, with the series set to debut in December. Now, it was Fennec Shan actress Ming-Na Wen who posted about the show wrapping on Instagram, along with some gifts that she got, which involved latex gloves. I don't even want to go into that, but through that, we found out that the show has wrapped shooting. Hopefully that means they'll, clear out the, disinfect the volume and start filming The Mandalorian season 3, because that's the one I want to get back to. What in the hell is going to happen with Din Djarin and the Dark Saber, and trying to get Mandalore back, and what's going on with Baby Yoda, and will he meet Kylo Ren? And there's so many questions. So many questions. I am ready for season 3 already. All right. Now, Loki debuted last night, and they had a press conference to introduce some of the new characters, to talk about the series. And one of the people on the press conference was Owen Wilson, who is making his MCU debut. And, when he was asked what was unique about the experience of working on a Marvel movie or a Marvel series, because, he's done a lot, everything from Wedding Crashers to Shanghai Noon to, Shanghai Nights. He's done dramas. He's even worked with Tom Hiddleston once before in a movie that completely slips my mind. But, so he's done a lot of stuff. So what makes Marvel different? And he said, I'm not going to do an Owen Wilson imitation. I don't have one. I haven't practiced one, other than going, wow, I don't have an Owen Wilson imitation. But what he said is, it's exciting to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. With just kind of seeing Loki trailers start to come out and how excited people get. I kind of talked about how I've worked on a lot of things, but the sort of secrecy surrounding this, I didn't quite understand until I saw that it's just so much. The fan base is so kind of revved up and passionate, and Marvel just so kind of committed to trying to surprise people. So then you kind of get into it. You definitely are kind of walking on eggshells, because you're not quite sure. Now, did this happen in episode 3 or 4 or 1, or have they already seen it? And so I just sort of fall back on saying more shocking things are going to happen. That's the most meandering answer I've ever heard in my life. But I like his approach. He's taken the safe approach, rather than Paul Bettany's, I'm going to get an act with an actor I've always wanted to work with. So we probably won't get anything like that from Owen Wilson. He's probably just going to dance around any questions like that and just give you the easy answers. Also in that press conference was some guy named Kevin Feige. And he was asked why the MC versions of Thor and Loki are so much funnier than the comic version, which is interesting that the question came up because just last night, Kyle and I were talking about how he's finally was going to sit down and watch Thor: The Dark World and Thor: Ragnarok before Loki. Now I know he's watched Loki. I didn't get a chance to ask him if he has watched the other two movies, but he was a little hesitant on Ragnarok because it's, everything about it shows it's sure. Come on. Did you watch Dark World and Ragnarok last night?
I fell asleep during Ragnarok.
You fell during Ragnarok?
I did. Well, okay. You got to remember, it was getting close to me having been awake for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't that I chose to fall asleep. It was that my body no longer was voluntarily awake.
Okay. But you got through Thor: The Dark World.
Yes, I did.
And your thought on that one?
Zachary Levi was terrible in it.
Okay.
I thought initially and this is my first time watching it, the criticism it got was justified.
Okay.
I did not think it was as bad as I thought it would be. And then watching Ragnarok again, I fell asleep probably with half hour, 40 minutes left in the movie.
Okay.
I didn't make it that far into it. You know what I mean? Like, there was still a lot of plot to be decided when I passed out eventually.
Were they still on Sakaar when you fell asleep?
They were, yes, but I don't think for very long.
Did they get to It's My Birthday yet?
No.
Okay.
There's still a large, and I was getting pretty drowsy, so I may have seen it and forgot. But there was still a lot of plot to be discussed and discovered there.
Okay. All right.
So,
well, this quote from Kevin Feige. Oh, but go ahead.
No. So I will say I enjoyed Ragnarok more than I thought I would.
Okay.
I had my qualms. I had my reservations. I was able to sort of put those aside for the good of the order and watch through without wantonly vomiting.
Okay.
I thought it was good.
Yeah. It sounds like you and I are pretty much on the same page with Dark World. I don't think it's a great movie. It's one of the lower MCU movies, but it's still an MCU movie, and the most MCU movies are still better than a lot of movies that are out there. And I'd rather rewatch Thor: The Dark World than I would Elektra or Catwoman or, God, I could probably go on and on about which movies I'd rather. But Kevin Feige, when asked the question about the humorous angle that they're taking now with Thor and Loki, and why they were so much funnier than they are in the comics, he responded with, I think they all had a certain amount of humor in the comics over the many decades. But the answer comes down to the performers and to the remarkable talents of Mr. Hemsworth and Mr. Hiddleston, and the range of talents. To be very RDA or RADA trained, which of course is the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, Shakespearean and also hilarious, or in the case of Hemsworth, just to have the dramatic chops and the humor and embracing all the above. So it wasn't necessarily a conscious plan to say, let's make them even funnier now. They just always been funny. We took that from behind the scenes and decided we wanted to put it on camera and over the more recent years. So that's why Ragnarok is funny and why they went with Taika Waititi. And my opinion on Thor Ragnarok is it's a great movie. It's not so much a Thor movie. To me, the first Thor movie is a Thor movie. That's the Stan Lee and Jack Kirby Thor that I grew up with. loved watching Ragnarok. Jeff Goldblum, all the funny lines, the way the Hulk acts in it, the friend from work line that was given to them by a Make-A-Wish Foundation child, all that great stuff. I even like the short-haired Thor. I like that better than Thor in the first movie, where they literally bleached his eyebrows. They should never have bleached his eyebrows. But overall, I like the first movie as a Thor movie better than I like Ragnarok. But Ragnarok is a fun movie. All right. So that hits my news for the day. And I want to do a simple, spoiler-free Loki review. So if you haven't watched Loki yet, this shouldn't give anything away. I already pre-wrote it to try to avoid making any spoilers. But watch the movie or watch the show yourself. Thursday night, tomorrow night will be the spoiler review and discussion. So here is my non-spoiler Loki review. The episode's called Glorious Purpose, which, of course, classic line from Loki, and it's written by Michael Waldron, directed by Kate Herron, who I believe Kate directs all the episodes while Michael is the head writer. I don't know if he writes all the episodes, but he definitely wrote this one. And while the series is basically 48 Hours meets Doctor Who, that's my tagline for this. That's what it is. 48 Hours meets Doctor Who. This particular episode had a lot of work to do, and it does it very well. There's a good chunk of world building to establish the Time Variance Authority and all the people involved. And we meet everyone we expect to from the trailers. We get Owen Wilson as Mobius M. Mobius. And yes, I keep saying Morbius. I know Kyle thought he heard Morbius. It's Mobius. He's not the living vampire. He's the agent of the Time Variance Authority. We get Gugu Mbatha Raw as, well, we get her introduced as Judge Renslayer, but we're assuming she's Ravonna Renslayer, the love interest of Kang the Conqueror. I don't remember I had the subtitles on, but I don't remember which way they described her name in the subtitles. I'll have to do that on a second watch. We got Wunmi Musaku as Hunter B-15. She is terrific. And we get Eugene Cordero as Casey. And I got to tell you, he may be one of my new favorite members of the MCU. To me, he was the Agent Wu Darcy of this series. You know, he's the Ramirez of Falcon and Winter Soldier. He had some great lines. Obviously, he spent his entire life in the TVA, and I like the guy. And I love his little cart and the things we find in his cart, but I won't say any more about that. If you recognize the voice of Miss Minute, or were trying to figure out who it was, I can tell you it's Tara Strong, the voice of Harley Quinn. So she's now jumped over to the MCU, and she is spectacular as well. Another thing this episode needed to accomplish was basically getting this version of Loki along a similar redemption arc in 51 plus minutes, plus credits, that it took Thor the Dark World, Thor Ragnarok, and Avengers Infinity War to do in the movies. And I say a redemption arc. Kyle and I spoke before the show, and he said basically, he described him as needing to be malleable enough to go along with what they're doing. Because, come on, Loki is one of the most narcissistic, self-important people in the MCU, and he wouldn't do a damn thing that wasn't self-serving. So to get him to a point where you believe he would actually help the TVA, well, we believe that the Loki that died in Avengers Endgame. But this isn't that guy. This is the Loki who just lost the Battle of New York. He hasn't lost his mother yet. He hasn't lost his father. He hasn't really connected to Thor. None of that. So they need to get us to that point, and they do it brilliantly. I think Tom Hiddleston brings the humor, the arrogance, but also an emotional range that wasn't really expected. And his pairing with Wilson is so much better than I would have believed possible. The two of them work so well off of each other that I can't wait to see them working together going forward. The third thing this episode had to do was establish that there's a reason the TVA might need a variant, the variant Loki to help them. What is the purpose? I mean, sure, Owen Wilson's trying to get somewhere with him, and Loki, we're going through Loki on the Ark, and we're establishing the TVA and their whole universe and their world. But why? What's all this for? Well, they didn't have to do a lot, but they had to give us enough to pique our interest and make us want to come back. Because otherwise, we just watch this and we go, oh, hey, Loki's malleable again, to borrow Kyle's term. Why do we want to come back? Well, they give us just enough little details, little hints that there's a bigger thing going on. And then there's the final line of the episode, which immediately makes, wait, no, I need more. More, please, more, I want more. So on all those three accounts, I think they did remarkably well. Overall, the show was a lot of fun, had some strong emotional beats, established this new corner of the Marvel Universe, and left enough mystery. Like I said, I can't wait till next week or the next episode. This is going to be a very unique entry in the MCU, and there's a good chance that it's going to change things going forward. It's going to, I mean, where we thought WandaVision was going to set up the multiverse and then pay it off in Spider-Man Far From Home or No Way Home, and then Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I think we're going to get more multiverse building here, especially since Michael Waldron, who's writing this show as a head writer, wrote Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And he's also going to write Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie. So you can kind of tell that I think Kevin Feige likes him. But, all right. So that is my spoiler-free review. This is probably a better premiere than the other two series. Absolutely love both WandaVision and Falcon the Winter Soldier. I think this is a better premiere. I'm going to borrow something else Kyle said, a Red Skelton quote. It has a long porch, as in there's a lot of setup, but it needs every inch of that porch. It needs to build this world and to do all those other things I talk about, and it does it extremely well. Okay, so at this point, I think we're going to go to a commercial break. So Kyle, if you're ready, take it away.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
All right, welcome back. Now, we are halfway through the show, and I was trying to think of what we're going to cover today, and I saw that there's a rumor going around out there. Now, I'm not much for rumors because a lot of them are wrong. I mean, people talked about Mephisto for all of WandaVision. And there were rumors that the X-Men were coming to WandaVision, and just a ton of false rumors. And there's websites out there that do nothing but come up with fake rumors to get hits. I won't even mention the names of the websites, but I don't give them any credence. I ignore them 99% of the time. But there's a rumor floating around out there, and it's not the first time it's come up. And it's one that makes a lot of sense. And if it was something to the effect of, oh my God, they're going to bring Magneto into, I don't know, the Eternals. Magneto's going to be in the Eternals, and he's going to be played by some giant star. Keanu Reeves is playing Magneto. I'd go, okay, that's a clickbait. This, on the other hand, is a lesser known actor being touted for a role in an upcoming film that makes sense thematically wise for what they're doing. And it's not the first time this actor's been attached to this role through rumors. So could it just be another turn to get some clicks and just recycling the older review? Absolutely. So take this with a grain of salt. The report is, and I believe it's from a site, well, the site's called the Illuminati, or Illuminerd. And they've been somewhat good at spoilers. They've gotten some right. I don't know what their actual ratio is, but they've had some hits among their misses. And what they're saying is that, well, a while back, an actor named, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right, Tenoch Huerta, had been cast in Black Panther 2 as the villain. Now, we've known that rumor has been around for a long time. Tenoch Huerta was probably best known for his role as Rafael Caro Quintero on the Netflix series Narcos Mexico. And people speculated at the time that he would probably be playing Namor the Submariner. And if you look at the actor, you could see it. You kind of makes that connection. But again, it hasn't been confirmed. Well, now the Illuminati is coming out with a new report that again says Huerta is playing Namor. So why so much speculation about Namor? In the comics, there's a history of bad blood between Atlantis and Wakanda. And while Black Panther has some other villains he could face, we've already used up Claw, Killmonger, and, Manape. Manape, who is actually M'Baku, but they just never called him Manape, and that's probably a really good thing. But those are three of the biggest villains for the Black Panther, and we've already established those three, and two of them are dead. So the only other two, the two biggest villains You've been yelling about this for years, the fact that they used up all the Black Panther villains already? It's Kyle's saying. So the two biggest villains that he's really come across other than that are Namor and Doctor Doom. And I don't see Doctor Doom being introduced in Black Panther. Maybe he is, and maybe Huerta's going to play Doctor Doom. But I could see Namor making more sense. I think they would leave Doctor Doom for a Fantastic Four related story. And no, I don't think we're going to get the Fantastic Four in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So where did this bad blood between Namor and Black Panther comes from? There's a couple stories. There's one that shows them working together when they were kids, and in doing so, Namor sees the advanced technology going on in Wakanda, and Atlantis has already have advanced technology, and he sees them as a rival nation, and he realizes that it's probably going to be a problem in the future. So there's that storyline out there. But there's a more recent one, which took place in the Avengers versus the X-Men comics, where the Phoenix Force takes over various mutants, including Namor, because Namor is called the first mutant. Yes, I know Apocalypse is much older, but in Marvel Comics, Namor is considered the first mutant. And yeah, his powers are partly because he's half human and half Atlantean, so he's got a lot of the powers of being an Atlantean. He's kind of the same as Aquaman in that he's half human, half Atlantean. But neither human nor Atlanteans can fly. And that's what his mutant power is, a little winged feet thing. That's his mutant ability, the ability to fly. So that's why he got the Phoenix Force in those comics. And in it, the Phoenix-led X-Men defeated the Avengers. The Avengers retreated to Wakanda. Namor felt that Wakanda was harboring enemies of the mutants and decided to invade. And that led to a back and forth. And yeah, it created this bad blood between Wakanda and Atlantis. And while I don't see them doing that story in the MCU, they've established some basis for Atlantis existing. All the way back in Iron Man 2, there were the boards at the end where Tony Stark is meeting with Nick Fury, and there's an incident marker, or whatever they want to call those, over the Atlantic Ocean between South America and Africa. That's where people think Atlantis is supposed to be. JD says, Namor the first mutant is the first mutant published, while Apocalypse is the first mutant in continuity. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Namor is one of the first heroes ever published. And I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But also in Avengers Endgame, there is the scene where Natasha is talking to holograms of different heroes, including Okoye, and they talk about a undersea earthquake. And Okoye's like, we don't do anything. It's an undersea earthquake. We deal with it by not dealing with it. So people seem to think that that's involved with Atlantis. Maybe because no one came to their aid. Maybe Wakanda didn't come to their aid. They're mad. Don't know. But they've done little things that could be threads that if Ryan Coogler wanted to play with, he could, to establish Atlantis. When they do those things, there's no guaranteeing that's what they're doing. When they throw those little Easter eggs in there, like on the map or like the undersea earthquake, they do it with the idea. This is from the writers of Endgame. They said they do it with the idea that a later person could come along, pick it up and run with it, or could completely ignore it. So there's no guarantee they're going to play up on that thread. All right. So Namor himself, why would it be important to them to get Namor into the MCU? They just want a guy running around in nothing but spandex or a Speedo? It's possible. That could be their number one reason. They don't get the shirt off scenes that they used to, and that's why they want Namor. Maybe they've got a license on the green Speedo trunks, and they want to make a lot of money on them. Always a possibility. Well, Namor is one of the oldest superheroes they've ever published. Now, he and the original android Human Torch, Jim Hammond Torch, they were published together for the first time. And Bill Everett created Namor because Carl Burgos, who created the Human Torch, did a character with fire. So they went to Bill Everett and said, well, we need a character. And this wasn't originally going to be in a Marvel Comics or Timely Comics, which is where it ended up. This was going to be in a giveaway book. Burgos created the Human Torch. They went to Bill Everett, and Bill Everett came up with this idea based off of Samuel Taylor Coleridge's poem, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. He used that as his inspiration and decided to do something with water to go opposite of fire, and came up with the idea of a Prince of Atlantis who helps the ocean world and helps humanity and stuff like that. The name comes from Everett wasn't sure what to call this guy, so he just started writing it down, a bunch of noble sounding words, and then writing them backwards to see what he would get. So one of the words was Roman, and flipped around, became Namor. Now, that should be obvious to some people, because years later, when Rob Liefeld was running Extreme Studios and he was creating a bunch of characters, he created a Submariner-like character and named him Roman. He just kind of flipped it back. So, all right. So they're doing this book for a giveaway, and then the idea of the giveaway book gets scrapped. So the publisher, Funnies Inc., passes these two stories onto Timely Comics, one of their customers, who then published them in April of 1939 in a book called Marvel Comics #1. So Namor and Human Torch debuted at the same time. Now, let me find my note. And of course, Timely was the predecessor for Marvel Comics. They took the name Marvel Comics and turned it into Marvel Comics. What do you think of Daniel Day Kim as Namor? I like the idea, but I don't think they're going to go that direction. Originally, if you just came in, we're talking about the rumor that Tenoch Huerta was going to be Namor. And I'm going to get to a point where I think why they may end up casting a Latino actor, a Latinx actor, rather than an Asian actor. But I'm going to get to that. So I'll specifically answer that question, JD, in just a moment. So Namor was published April of 1939, which is exactly 1 month after Batman. So 1938 was Superman, March of 1939 was Batman, April was Submariner and the Human Torch. Now, the character would be published somewhat regularly from about 1941 to 1949, and then go away for a few years. He'd come back in 1954 for about a year, and then again get canceled in 1955, and he'd be gone for 7 years. And in that 7 years, Marvel's doing monster books and romance books, and then finally Martin Goodman comes in and goes, hey, they're doing great stuff over at DC with superhero books. Maybe we should do a superhero team book. Stan Lee decides, yeah, let's do that. And they come up with the Fantastic Four with Jack Kirby. And in episode and one of the characters, of course, is a modern version of the Human Torch. So since they had success bringing that character back, Stan Lee decided to bring back Namor as well in Fantastic Four #4 in May of 1962. Just like they would bring back Captain America, another character from the Golden Age, in Avengers #4. He goes about 4 issues into a series and goes, let's bring somebody old back. Now, the character would kind of go villain to hero back and forth, really depending on what his role is in the comic. If he's a foil for a hero, he's the bad guy. But if he's in his own story, then he's the good guy. And he kind of flips back and forth. He appears in Tales to Astonish for a while. He gets his own series. He ends up joining the Defenders alongside Doctor Strange, the Silver Surfer, and the Hulk, and does that for a long time. He also they come up with an idea for a Golden Age version of the characters fighting in World War II called the Invaders. And they team him up with the original Human Torch, Captain America, and Bucky, and they bring back a bunch of other characters from that era, like the Destroyer, Stan Lee's first ever created character, Union Jack, Spitfire. So they find unique ways to use Namor. But like I said, he kind of flips back and forth between being a hero and being a villain or an anti-hero. There's a whole series that Jay Lee did the art on where he's pretty much becoming an eco-warrior and trying to stop all these polluting companies. And it turns out he's rich because of all the don't remember why he's rich. It might be the inventions or the technology that Atlantis has, but he almost becomes a little Batman-like in that sense, but an eco-warrior. So kind of merge Batman and Green Arrow at that point. So now getting to casting. The reason I think they're going to go Latino or Latinx is there is a tie between Atlantis and the Mayan culture. Now, there's a good chance we're going to see the sinking of Atlantis in the Eternals because Atlantis shared a continent with Lemuria, or maybe Lemuria was the continent, and that's where the Deviants were, the Deviants' home city of Lemuria. And when the Deviants decide to attack one of the Celestials who came back to help Judge, the Celestial responded by sinking Lemuria and therefore taking Atlantis down with it. So you've got this advanced society that has suddenly disappeared. That's the story of Atlantis. Well, the Mayan culture was known as being very advanced and then suddenly disappearing as well. And there's a lot of people who try to connect the two, and I don't mean just in comics. There's attempts in history books and stuff to connect the two, and not, well, fictional history, people who are trying to figure out where the myth of Atlantis comes from, stuff like that. Maybe Atlantis was a Mayan city. So there's a good chance that they're going to make the Atlantis people descendant of the Mayans. And part of that, backing that up, is the actual story from Illuminati, or the Illuminerd, who says that along with Huerta being cast as Namor, there is a casting call for a Mayan woman and a Mayan man to play characters Zayana and Cadmiel. Now, this is believed to be fake code names because they're not going to put the real names out there in these casting calls, to be possibly code names for Namora, Namor's cousin, or Namorita is his love interest, so it could be one of those two, and Atuma, the Atlantean warlord. So that could be what it is, and those would be important characters to have if you're doing a storyline that is Wakanda versus Atlantis. You know, you can't just have Namor. You need to establish two nations as two tribes or two nations going after each other. So you would need these other characters. Another reason why I think that bringing this in is it gives you ways of dealing with the passing of Chadwick Boseman that makes sense. If he is killed in an action against Atlantis, or he's killed by an Atlantean, then that causes the war, and it becomes a big thing. If Boseman's character is written out by, not written out, but his passing is dealt with by him being killed by just a standard villain, then it's more of a one-on-one battle, and it needs to be something bigger. So having Wakanda versus Atlantis, or even Wakanda versus Latveria, makes more sense to me than simply he was killed by villain X or villain Y, or he's traveling through space studying something, or, I mean, I'm hoping that whatever they do, they deal with it succinctly. It's not one of those that they leave it kind of open-ended, because I think it needs to be the Band-Aid pulled off and dealt with. I think we're going to need a new Black Panther, or at least set it up, and I'm not sure who it's going to be, but throwing all of Wakanda in chaos that the king is killed could be an amazing story. So that's why I think there might be something to this rumor. And for them to bring in Tenoch Huerta to play Namor makes sense if they do go along the Mayan connection idea. And since there really isn't a large Latino representation in the MCU, I think that would be a good thing as well. We've got some actors, but not nearly enough. So it would be a good way to bring that in. So that's my thoughts on it. I don't know how legit the rumor is. Again, Huerta's casting was hinted at or rumored a while ago, and then it was speculated he'd be playing Namor, bringing it back around. He looks like the part. And we know that they could basically train people to look ungodly buff to pull off the Namor outfit, though I have a feeling we would get something more like his black costume with the vest and the long pants than we will the little green Speedo. I don't know if Marvel wants to put a little green Speedo wearing outfit guy on posters. Maybe they do. I don't know. But that's my thoughts on it. I'm curious how they're going to handle the Black Panther, the passing of Chadwick Boseman, which is still amazingly tragic. I mean, everything I saw him in was absolutely brilliant, and it's a heartbreaking loss. But it's also a loss to the franchise that they're going to have to deal with. And we're 13 months away from when the movie is supposed to come out. 13 months. Which means something has to happen quickly. They have to start principal photography soon if they're going to put this movie in the theaters on July 8th, 2022. I know that Martin Freeman knows the story Um, he talked about reading the script and Ryan Coogler talking to him about it and trying to make it all make sense. Having a character like Everett Ross in the middle of it as the trying to do the politics between Wakanda and another nation of Atlantis, and how the Americans would deal with suddenly Atlantis existing. There's a lot there. I think it would make for a great story. But they're going to have to do something. So that's another reason why I give just a little credence to this rumor, is that this really needs to move into production soon. I would expect that within the next couple of weeks, we'll hear that filming has started and that we'll get a better idea of the cast and stuff like that. I don't think we'll get the full plot, but I think we'll get a little bit. And Huerta's casting will probably be confirmed, maybe not who he's playing. You know, they may not come out and do like Jonathan Majors and say, oh, he's playing Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. They might not do that far and come out and say he's playing Namor, but it might be more like Richard E. Grant in the Loki series, where they come out and say he's in the series, he's in the movie. So, all right, guys, I have got to wrap it up. I thank you all for coming and watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow night for our spoiler chat for Loki. Join me then. Thank you. Have a great day. Goodbye.